Great, Neil. Thank you for the intro, and yeah, thank you, Toby, for building the presentation. Unfortunately, he's not feeling well, so I'll step in for him. So, just looking at the polls is quite interesting, and it's a fantastic feedback to get before I jump into my presentation, or shall I say, Toby's presentation. So, this topic, how to communicate your value, is quite a nice kind of add-on to what I discussed earlier about how do you create this rapidly growing business of yours. So, looking at the results, we say there's two things being asked. Do you properly communicate your value? And there's about let's say a 60-40 split on yes and no there. And do you feel you're getting paid for your value? And there's again about a 60-40 split there. And the main issue on both of those items, which is highly aligned, is if you are not communicating your value effectively. Unfortunately, the chances of you getting paid according to your value is very slim. And hopefully this presentation will help you to create some key strategies to better communicate your value. In other words, hopefully getting paid for your value, or at least appreciated for your value. All right, so in this session, there's really three things we're going to focus on: defining and understanding your value proposition, knowing your customer, and how to communicate your value proposition effectively. So let's jump in and let's define and understand what your value proposition is. Now, I should have probably had another poll here to ask, well, so what do you define as your value proposition? But because it's not an easy yes or no, we didn't do it. But let's just jump into what the definition is of a value proposition. The definition of a value proposition is the product or service that you sell combined with the entire set of resulting customer experiences that a customer has with your business and staff. So it is not just your service and or product that is important. It is all the interactions that your client have with your company and your staff while he's using or experiencing your service that ultimately creates the value proposition for a client. Now, to kind of define all those interactions, we like to call it, this is a slide that Toby also used yesterday, is let's call it that moments of truths, those touch points, which means it's every email, every phone call, every meeting report that's exchanged between yourself, your business, your staff, and your clients that creates these experiences. And if they are getting an amazing touch point, all these wow factors, obviously the client will be amazed. If not, the clients will obviously be not. So these moments of truth experiences can be superior than your competitors. That obviously creates a wow experience. It could be the same as, so you're kind of just doing the same that your competitor do down the road, and it's more of the same. And obviously, if you do a bad, give the client a bad experience, the client typically will cancel your mandate. That what helps to create these moments of truth typically revolve around your intellectual property that is, or capital that is deployed while the client is experiencing your service, the set of services you offer, and obviously the quality of your service. Now, maybe I can ask a question. If an investor or client walks into your office today and asks you the following question, so let's just pick on Neale. Neale, what do you as a rental portfolio business or rental agency do differently than the agency down the road? How would you answer that question today? Because unless you're typically going to say something different that is unique to you, the way you guys are doing or managing properties, you're typically going to be equal to the others, more of the same. And then suddenly your value that the client would like to pay comes into jeopardy, because typically they would say, well, you know, I can get my property managed the same way down the road. Why would I stay here with you? Why don't it typically comes down to, are you going to offer me a better price? Because the value is not perceived better. So it is critical that we ultimately understand these moments of truths, understand what unique intellectual property or expertise are we going to deploy while communicating our service and our value, that hopefully will define or relate to us getting paid as a market for what you are worth. We are very passionate about the value that the property manager delivers to their clients. We just realize it's not always communicated effectively. And hopefully after this session, we can provide you with some tips to improve that. Okay. So the next point is to design your value proposition. You have to understand your customer, because it doesn't help you create all these bells and whistles and it's not really perceived as true value from your client. So let's dive into our client within the rental environment space, and let's see if we understand him well enough to be able to deliver value to them in their perception. So today, if a client walks into your office and asks you, so what do you offer for me as a rental agency or management agency when you're going to be managing my investment property? In most cases, the unfortunate answer is the following, and this is even published on some property managers' websites. They say, Mr. Landlord, we will find you a tenant faster than anybody else. We will collect your rent for you very punctually every single month. We will do your maintenance management for you. We will make sure we manage tenants in arrears, and we will make sure we manage your lease. This is a critical part of your service offering, but it's typically not the client's core needs. I haven't met any investor that invested into the property as an asset class that are doing it to get involved with tenants. They ultimately have to invest it into an asset class with a certain risk-reward ratio, but it is not because they want to get involved with tenants. What they ultimately want is they want to know how you, as the property manager, are going to increase the return on the investment. They want to know, by giving it to you as the expert in the industry, how are you going to help them to reduce the risk? They want to know how you will guide them to grow their portfolio effectively and provide proper reporting to them to help them to make proper investment decisions. Now, I know that today, the finding the tenant, the collecting rent is always critical part of the services that an investor would need, but that ultimately is not his core needs. He invested into an asset class called property with a certain objective of increasing his asset value over time. And unless we as the industry understand this and start communicating our value proposition aligned with that, you typically will not be perceived as the experts that you are, and will typically not get paid for the experts and the value that you offer. So, you know, it sounds like a lot of airy-fairy. How do I practically actually go about to take this back to my agency, my business, and package myself to deliver the value that the client ultimately wants? Well, first of all, let's understand now. Let's understand the packaging. So first of all, when you send out your rental agent today, my question to you is, what does that agent have in his hands to guide him to communicate effectively your value proposition that is aligned with the expectations and needs of your client, the investor? Well, in most cases today, what we see is a kind of checklist of services that the agency offers, and that are referring to finding you a tenant, marketing on all the grant portals, managing the application process, doing the credit check, and like I said earlier, critical part of how you do what you do. But it should not be the what you do, because the what should speak to your client's core needs, which investment doing in your hands. So I'm going to present typically something that you could put in your agent's hands, and to help them to start communicating in the language of your client, the investor. All right. So imagine your rental agent that goes out, that is supposed to source new mandates, have something like this in their hands. A brochure that starts off by saying, we are an asset management business and we focus not only on finding tenants, but focus on growing your investment. That we have years of experience in the industry, and to enable us to have the necessary skill and expertise to grow your investment. I personally think that is the language that your investor expects you to speak when you present your value offering to him. Now, the next thing is, well, how do you do it? Well, first of all, our asset management value offering consists of ultimately 4 legs. We do professional marketing, we do professional maintenance management, legal administration with regards to leases, as well as obviously the financial account management. So it's not like this is not part of the discussion. It's always part of it, but it's more of how do we do it? It's not what we do. The what we do is, if I can turn back, is we are looking at your asset and we're going to make sure over time your asset is better managed in our hands compared to your competitors. of our competitors. So based on these four value offerings, this is what we typically deploy in our business. If you think back earlier to my presentation, typically referring back to those four pillars in the management team. Now, the next thing is, so practically how will it work? Sorry. So I went back, if I go back to when the days we were still at our management business, I once had a client asking me, so what do I pay you for? Because in their world, once you found a tenant, there's nothing really else besides collecting the rent every month. Post that, we designed the following kind of schematic flow diagram to clearly communicate the how we do what we do on a monthly basis to ensure the client understands the massive amount of work that goes on behind the scenes that a rental agent or managing agent conduct every month. So typically, if you think about it, I'm not going to read through all those bubbles, but this is typically the how you do what you do on a monthly basis. Typically, all of these activities that's on the screen now is what you do before a tenant moves in. Then once a tenant is in the property on a monthly basis, you still have to go through all of these activities, invoicing, collections, communication, reporting to landlords, managing arrears, etc., that you have to do on a monthly basis. And lastly, at the end of the lease, you've got to typically do at least the following 6 activities in your portfolio to effectively manage the lease period. Now, if you are sitting in front of a client and you communicate, first of all, the what you do, which is you're going to look after his asset, the how you do it, in the number of activities that you have to conduct in the beginning, during, at the end of the lease, I'm very confident that the cost or pricing negotiation will be definitely in your favor because the client can physically see what you do on a daily basis to effectively manage his asset, managing his risk, and ultimately help him to achieve a better ROI on his asset. The ultimate obviously is, and it's something that we as a company quite proud of, that we offer our clients, is imagine you can sit in front of your clients and provide to them a asset management report providing tangible feedback on the key elements of the performance matrix in property and how the asset has been performing in your hands. This is the ultimate, and obviously with our clients, we like to believe that in time, typically after 12 months after onboarding, they can all communicate this value to their clients. And this is the missing link in the industry. The link of properly, because you are doing all of these activities, you are managing his asset. The missing link is, as an industry, we haven't been quite that good in communicating that value in the language that our investor, our client, expects. And this, I believe, is the cherry on top to effectively communicate your value to your client, who is an investor. So lastly, if you're doing all of that stuff right, you've got the right packaging for your company in your agent's hands, the next question is, well, how do I actually go out and communicate that and make sure that I'm known for this? Now, this is really just marketing 101. You've got to go choose the channel through which you will get the most return on investment. Now, there are multiple channels. So I can just kind of refer to 5 major ones. First of all, you've got to have property practitioners or agents that goes out with that folder in hand, that are equipped and trained to effectively communicate your value proposition, meaning not only the how you do what you do, but the what you would do for any client, which is an investor. Secondly, depending on your demographics of your target market, everything is these days online to make sure that your website, your social marketing platforms all speak to what you do as a value offering for your clients. Typically, if I think back about our experience, we were very involved in the schools. So sponsorships is a key thing. PR, getting involved in events, and typically of stakeholders in your area. The most important thing, doesn't matter which channel you use, that effectively serves or communicates to your target market. It is understanding how you are going to package your value so that your client is perceiving you valuable in his eyes. So let's focus on what we do, not only on how we do it. Let's communicate based on our clients' needs. Now, I can promise you, as an industry, we should get paid better as a property management industry. And you should see your value that you are delivering already today should be perceived better. and then the whole negotiation about price disappears in time. And that's in any business. I think Leah spoke about the Woolies example. If we get value, we sometimes are willing to pay more. It is when the client doesn't perceive your value as they should, that value or pricing becomes into the equation. So I hope with this, you can hopefully go back into your office, think about how you equip your agents to communicate your value better, and hopefully you will get paid better over time. Thank you for your